Hey guys, welcome back to Razor RC. Got another video here today on step 3 of the upgrade series for the Slash 2-wheel drive racer truck I've been building. So stage 3 is basically electronics upgrade, and what I decided to do electronics wise is kind of go with more of a budget build. So I'm running Hobbyking stuff from basically hobbyking.com. I didn't get paid for this or get the stuff for free. I paid for it all on my own. But this is a little more of a budget build. Usually I run Hobbywing ESCs, Savox servos, and something like a reedy motor, which I would consider basically mid-level type electronics, not super high-end, not really cheap stuff, but generally good quality stuff. Works pretty well, and been happy with that stuff so far. So this is kind of the first time I'm trying this Hobbyking stuff. Basically picked up 3 items here for the electronics. I'm running a Turnigy 1258TG servo, titanium geared servo. Pretty similar specs to the Savox 1258TG, after which I assume it was named. Running Hobbyking X-Car 120 amp ESC there, kind of a budget ESC. And for the motor, I'm running a Trackstar 8.5 turn Roar approved. Basically their V1 motor. They actually have a newer version of this motor out now, but this is their older one. They still sell it a little bit cheaper than the V2. So altogether, all these electronics cost me about let's say $105, I think, for all 3. They're all about $35 each, so pretty cheap stuff. And so this is the first time I've been running it. So here's my review of the electronics. The servo actually was running pretty good. I've been pretty happy with it so far. No issues. It is a little bit slower than the Savox, but has a little bit higher torque. If you want to check out more about a comparison between these 2 servos, there's a nice video by Bill DeLong where he actually compares them in terms of speed and torque. And so the only real issue I had with this, and I kind of mentioned back when I was doing the low center gravity conversion, is that basically I did have to notch out a little bit of the side here of the lower chassis here, because the servo kind of sticks out a little bit more than the stock one. But overall, no issues, plenty fast, plenty torque. I've been happy with it so far and hasn't broken anything, so far so good. Obviously I'm not running a servo saver, so haven't had any issues with it stripping or breaking or anything, so pretty happy so far. So servo has been good. In terms of the ESC, this is the Hobbyking X-Car 120 amp ESC, which is basically, I would say, a knockoff of the Hobbywing V2.1 ESC. I've actually had 3 of those Hobbywing V2.1 ESCs, which were pretty solid ESCs. I mean, they all did eventually break, so not with the most durable ESCs, but they also run kind of in the $60 to $70 range, whereas this one costs about $38, I think. They're not exactly the same ESC. Some differences I noticed is basically the wires on this are 14 gauge. I think on the V2.1, I believe they were 12 gauge, but these look kind of slim for 128 amp ESC. The capacitors actually look pretty nice. I mean, there's 2 of them. They're nicely shrink wrapped. I actually had to shoe glue them onto the side of the ESC because the shrink wrap wouldn't really stick to servo tape. And then the switch actually seems a little bit cheaper, than the Hobbywing version. So it's not the same switch, I don't think. It's a little bit flimsy. Feels like it might break eventually, but so far it's been working so good, pretty fine so far. And then for the fan, actually, I used Phillips head screws that were backing out. So basically I lost one of the screws. I actually switched them out to Allen head screws, which have been working a little bit better. Put some Loctite on to kind of snug them down a little bit better, and so they seem to be holding on to the ESC heatsink a little bit better. They're not actually even really threaded on the heatsink. They're just kind of screwed and kind of wedged between the fins. But so far it's been actually holding out once I put some Loctite on and changed out the screws to Allen head screws. So the ESC pretty much has all the same features as the V2.1 by Hobbywing. I think they actually run the same firmware. If you look at the manual for this, they'll actually send you a link to basically the Hobbywing manual. So the firmwares are pretty much the same. I guess the software firmware, there's no difference. You can actually upgrade to Hobbywing firmware if you want. ESC settings wise, actually up the punch to max, which I think is 9. There's no issue with traction stuff, so full punch seemed fine. I'm actually running timing at stock timing, which is 15 degrees. Brakes on this thing are at 100%. Yeah, some people complain that the brakes aren't that strong, and I would agree. They're not super strong, so I definitely am running 100% on the ESC and 100% on the transmitter. So it's good enough for this. I didn't really have too many complaints about brakes, but if you're running like a four-wheel drive Slash, it might not be quite strong enough. And so, yeah, electronics wise, not a whole lot of options, not a whole lot of tuning, but it does have all the basics. So no complaints there. I don't think there's any boost or turbo, so you basically just have timing and punch are really the main adjustments you have there. But so far so good. Drag brake's still at 10%. I'm not doing anything else, I think, changes wise to the stock settings. Now the nice thing is actually you can program this with your Hobby Wing basically program card. I've got one I use on all my Hobby Wings, the multifunction LCD, and it worked just fine on this one. So you don't need a PC adapter or anything like that if you already have a Hobby Wing program card. So ESC, I had a few concerns about the wiring on this. 14 gauge wiring is pretty slim. I'm only running an 8.5 turn motor. I'd be a little worried if you try to go down to like a 5.5 or a 4-pole or something like that. I don't think it would work very well, but for 8.5 turn motor, it seems fine so far. Hopefully this will hold up. Because the V2.1 wasn't the most durable thing. After a ton of crashes, the board eventually broke and such. One quick tip on mounting this: I actually am using a little carbon fiber plate from STRC, I think it is, basically to mount the ESC on. So this basically screws down where the stock ESC goes, and then you can servo tape whatever ESC you want on top of that. So a little quick tip on how to get this thing mounted. And so the last thing is basically the motor. This is the Turnigy Trackstar 8.5 turn motor. Seems be about right power wise. I tried a 9.5 turn motor, but it was a little too slow for me. I want something a little bit quicker. You probably stick a 7.5 or a 6.5 too if you want. But power wise, this seems pretty close to about perfect for my local indoor track. Hopefully you've seen the video of this thing running. That was with this motor, and had plenty of power to basically make all the jumps and get down the front straight, at a pretty good clip. So what I'm running in terms of settings on this thing is I have basically timing set to max, as you can see there. Timing wise, it looks like if you set it to max, you're getting about 20 degrees of timing. There's not a whole lot of adjustment in timing wise. Some motors go from like 0 to 40 or 50 degrees like my Reedy, but this one really you only have about 20 degrees of adjustment. So I've got that at max, and I've got the ESC at stock setting, which is 5, which is 15 degrees. So basically running 20 plus 15 degrees, or about 35 degrees of timing. Temperature wise, this gets up to about 150 degrees, after a couple packs. So it's right about where I would say comfort wise in terms of heat. Don't want to get too much hotter than that. And then I'm running a 20-tooth pinion with the stock spur gear. So I forget what the stock spur gear tooth count is, but 20-tooth pinion seems about right. I ran at 18, but that seemed a little slow. I was maxing out speed-wise down the front straight, only about a third way down. So yeah, those settings: 20-tooth pinion, max timing, and then stock ESC timing, which is about 15 degrees, seems about right. Plenty of power. It's running pretty good. So overall, I've been pretty happy with the electronics. We'll have to see how these hold up durability wise, but so far so good. Everything's working, everything's running. No real issues with them so far. And it's kind of nice that this stuff's compatible with Hobby Wing stuff. Yeah, so for $105, whole new set of electronics, definitely improves the car a lot, right? Obviously the brushed motor is pretty darn slow, and obviously the servo also improves the performance quite a bit. You can actually get the car a lot more reactive to your inputs, and turning a lot quicker than it used to. So been happy so far. We'll see how this goes, but that's basically my review of the Hobbyking stuff. I'd say if you're on a budget, you don't want to spend a lot of money, but you do want some performance upgrades, for $100, a whole new set of electronics is a pretty good deal. Don't expect this stuff to last forever. Things will break. The fan seems pretty cheap. The switch seems pretty cheap. Especially this ESC seems a little questionable. The motor is pretty solid. You know, I've actually had this motor for a couple years, so it's held up fine so far. No issues there. And then the servo, we'll see. But so far, you know, from what I've read, it's gotten pretty good views. And I've crashed this truck a bunch and had no issues with the servo so far. I haven't stripped or anything with no servo saver. The last thing I did want to mention. I have a complaint-wise is on this motor, for whatever reason, the timing is hard to adjust. I basically had to like loosen all these 3 screws, which is what you would normally do to adjust the end belt timing. But I also had to adjust these 3 screws on the can, basically loosen the whole back half of the can. So all 6 of the screws before I was able to get this thing to budge, and then I was actually able to turn it. But it was kind of hard. It was kind of annoying in the beginning. So I think these things are all like sort of locked tight down. So make sure you loosen them if you want to adjust the timing. I'd say go max timing on this and then adjust on the ESC. You know, if you want a little bit less than 15 degrees, you could try that. Or if I don't think you'd want to run more timing than what I'm running. But yeah, that's really my only complaint about the electronics that I've had an issue with so far. So that's pretty much it. My review of the Hobbyking electronics. Hope you enjoyed this. Look for more videos soon. You know, I've got basically the 4th upgrade in the works. I already know what I'm going to do there, so look for that soon. And thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Throw down a comment. And that's pretty much it. So that's it. Take care, guys. Bye.